Hello and welcome into my latest broadcast. My name is Kerry Holzman, and today I've got a new build scheduled for you, and this is featuring a brand new wow, that's a good way to get started. Excuse me. A brand new case from the folks over at Silverstone. You've seen me use Silverstone cases in the past. This is a Micro-ATX case, and it features 3 glass side panels. We have glass here, here, and here. And everything is inverted, which I am not a fan of. I'll tell you right out of the gate. I don't like it when everything's upside down. And that's the design they went with here on the Silverstone case. They did something similar with the Temjin case. And I have to say, it has no impact on the quality of the case. It just makes the build a little more complicated. The cable management and such is not ideal when you flip the motherboard upside down. And it's just not my personal preference. But that being said, this is really all about looks. This is more function, I'm sorry, this is more of, I'll find the words, form over function. It's about looking pretty. That's like the main #1 idea behind this case. Not that it's gonna be super easy to build in, not that it's gonna be super easy to cable, but that when it's done, it's gonna look very different, very unique, and be very much eye candy, something really pretty to look at. And so if that is the goal, if that's your goal, then this is certainly worth considering. The quality of Silverstone cases, in my experience, is second to none. They're just very sturdy, well-built quality machines. In fact, I built several of the Temjin series cases, and they look as beautiful today as they did when I built them. They're just gorgeous cases. Building in them wasn't as fun. It was a little bit more of a challenge. But on the other hand, there's only one of those computers that I built that I had to replace the motherboard in. I actually did a video follow-up on that. And, you know, it's not the worst thing in the world, but for me personally, I much prefer the motherboard going in a standard way, not inverted, not upside down. So with that said, let's take a quick overview of what we've got here. Like I said yesterday, I haven't seen this case before. I understand it was shown off at the Consumer Electronics Show back in January. And folks were talking about it back then, and we're very lucky that the folks over at Silverstone have given us one of the first cases since they've gone into manufacturing, to evaluate here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to build a system in here. And what I've got is I've got this ASRock board over here, the Z370 Pro 4, and I'm going to pull the RAM, CPU, and M.2 off of that, and I'm going to put it in here because that board's too big to fit in here. I need to get a Micro-ATX board. So I've got a B360M DS3H board, and we're just going to use onboard video. The problem primarily that I see with this being a gaming rig is I can foresee some airflow issues potentially. Now that said, there is room for a radiator up here and a radiator in the front if you wanted to do liquid cooling, but everything is actually backwards. You'll see the video card goes on the top, the IO shield goes on the opposite side in the middle, and all the air, as I understand it, is coming in from the top instead of out through the top. Everything is backwards. So, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's just a design feature. I think they're just trying to be different. And I also think that if you were gonna build a gaming machine out of this, you'd probably not wanna use air cooling. You probably wanna use liquid cooling because of the case design. I'm basing that solely on my own personal experience. And I could be completely wrong. Let's just put that out there. So we're gonna get ready for this in just a minute. I wanna follow up with yesterday's build. I talked to Bill, the owner of the computer that I was working on yesterday. And he had some concerns about the MSI motherboard. And so what I've done is I told Bill if it was me, I would keep the motherboard, but I would change the liquid cooler for a Hyper 212 Evo, only because if you're looking for something you don't want to have to open up and repair anytime soon, or anytime at all, you want to go with an air cooler. all of the liquid coolers, their pumps run out. About 4 or 5 years, the pumps burn out. And it has nothing to do with the quality of a specific all-in-one liquid cooler. They're all pretty much the same. So because of that, because he wants a computer, he's not going to overclock. He wants it fast. He wants it reliable. And he's always used ASUS boards, and he's never had a problem with any of them. And I told him, you know, we can put an ASUS board in there, but honestly, I think the MSI board's going to be just fine. But upon further research, I could not find any warranty information on the box or in the documentation with the motherboard with regards to what MSI's warranty is. It is an industry standard that motherboards are warranted for 3 years. So GIGABYTE, ASUS, ASRock, all their boards have a 3-year warranty. I had to really dig around. This was not easy to find what MSI's warranty was. It is not on the box. It is not in any documentation that comes with the board. I simply cannot find any warranty information. By going to Newegg and clicking on the warranty button, some of the MSI products, that information is left blank, and on others, it's 1 year. So for some reason, MSI has 1/3 the warranty of everybody else, but their prices don't represent that at all. Their prices are still a higher tier. In fact, the MSI board I'm using costs about $60 more than the ASUS board that the owner of that computer was considering replacing it with. So what I've done is this, and you have to understand, this is the difference between running a business and building for yourself. I told Bill, I'm so confident that this board is going to be just fine that I will pay for the shipping back. If he has any problems and he has to mail it back to me, I will pay for the shipping both directions for up to 3 years. So it's coming out of potentially my own pocket. Remember, I'm not making any money from this build. I don't make any money from any of the builds. The money I make comes from the YouTube videos only. So I really have to stick my neck out in order to put my money where my mouth is and say, I'm so confident you're not going to have a problem with the board. On the other hand, I build computers all the time. I have no problem switching the board out, and I'll just use the board myself or sell it to somebody else. It's not a big deal. But what would be ideal for me is to actually have the customer use the board. And if he does have any problems with it in 3 years, which would be the regular warranty of ASUS and GIGABYTE and ASRock, then the amount it'll cost me for the shipping back and forth is worth it for that lesson. But that warranty alone is enough reason to not even consider MSI. I was looking through the reviews. A lot of people received dead on arrival. Out of the 1-star reviews, 5, I think, of the 6 1-star reviews were dead on arrival. And I don't think that's fair to blame the manufacturer just because you perhaps have a delivery driver who drop kicks packages to your front door. And then there was one that said it lasted for a month or 2 and it died. But everybody else, there were 24 5-star reviews on this board, and they loved it. So I'm going to go with the majority here, and I'm going to guess that that board is probably okay. I am a bit concerned that MSI does not honor the same warranty everybody else does, and they've reduced it by 66% compared to competitors. And their pricing of their boards is actually more money. And it's all made in China, which doesn't impress me much. I know that GIGABYTE, it's all designed in Japan. I think the circuit boards are made in China, but it's all assembled in Japan. And generally speaking, we get better quality out of Japan than we do from China. But I need a customer willing to take it on so that I have some recent experience with MSI to feel as though everything I say about them is current and accurate. So he's agreed to that. So I'm going to pull the Liquid Maker 92 off of it and slap a Hyper 212 on there. And then I'll do the cable management and ship it out. I think I'll do that on Monday, and I'll do it live here on YouTube. So yeah, that's where we're at with that. Hello to everybody watching. We have 459 people watching live. Did get a little bit of an early start, so I could just talk a little bit about the what's going on here with previous videos. And I'm really looking forward to building this system. This system will be available for sale after the build. If you're interested in purchasing it, let me know. We're going to be building a Core i5-8400, which is an ideal chip for a gaming system, but also an ideal chip for having a powerful system that without the enthusiast level i7 and the heat that it generates, having a mid-range, the mid-range i5 compared to an i3, which you never want to buy, an i7, which is really an enthusiast chip. The i5 sits right in the middle, and we're on the upper tier of the i5. And price for performance, this is the gaming CPU of choice on the Intel side. But I'm not making this into a gaming machine. Like I said, I'm concerned about the heat. We'll use onboard video, and we'll use the stock Intel cooling fan. And we're going to pair all of this. This is another reason I'm not going to make it a gaming machine, is this power supply. This power supply really isn't strong enough to throw a 1080 Ti in here. But this is an NJ450. This is the SXL. And it is fanless. So what we're going to have here is a very quiet computer. Very, very quiet. And there's no coil whine because the power supply is completely sealed. So there's no noise that can come out of it. It's an interesting design. This is an 80 plus platinum rated power supply. It's not a cheap power supply. And I think there's one rating above that, titanium. And it's covered in heat sinks. Wait till you take a look at this thing. This is incredible. I've always jokingly, sort of jokingly said you can kind of tell the quality from the weight. This thing is heavy. Now, the fanless design is really important for some people who are just sick and tired of listening to their computer fans running all the time. So let's see what we have. Oh, this is a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be. This is a small form factor power supply. I didn't realize that. Based on the box, it looked full size to me. But look at how cute that is. Isn't that cute? What does this case take? Can I even use it in this case? I don't think I can. I don't think I can. Not without some kind of an adapter. Maybe it comes with an adapter. Let's take a look. Sometimes they include adapters for... this would be used primarily in mini ITX systems. And again, when you're dealing with these really small systems, you have to worry about your heat. Getting the air moving through these small systems is tough because they don't have a lot of room inside. Man, that thing is heavy though. I wonder what that weighs. I bet that weighs 7 pounds. And let's see what's in the box. I know we've got cables because it's modular. And cables and screws. Okay, well that's all I need to know on this then. So what I'll do is I won't use this power supply. See, this is how you know everything's live and there's nothing that's been prepared off camera apart from, you know, bringing the parts out. This looks like it'll have to be used in a separate build, I'm guessing. What's the warranty on this? I just assumed when they sent it to me they were meant to go together. You know what they say about assuming. Fanless thermal solution, 80 plus platinum. Warranty. Mean time before failure is 100,000 hours of continuous operation at 25 degrees Celsius of full load. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, full load. That's tough on anything. You know, imagine if you just always drove your car with your foot all the way down. All right, does it say anything about warranty back here? Made in China. Noise level, 0 dBA. Weight, 1,152 kilograms, whatever that means. Operating temperature 0 to 40 degrees Celsius. I'm gonna have to look up what the warranty is. I don't like it when manufacturers don't boast their warranty. Yeah, I don't see anything about the warranty here. I'm gonna talk to the folks at Silverstone about this. Companies should be proudly boasting whatever their warranty is. It should be on the box somewhere. I know sometimes they don't do that because they use the same box in multiple countries, as this box has numerous languages printed across the back, and different countries have different regulations with regards to warranties, and that may be why. I don't know. That said, I'm going to have to grab a power supply, which is fine because I just happen to have an extra. I ordered one by mistake. And it's an EVGA 500B power supply. These are a really good deal. They have a good warranty, and this is 80 plus bronze, so it doesn't have the power efficiency of the other one, but it's slightly more powerful, and of course it's not modular, which sucks for this build because, as I mentioned, the cable management in it is going to be difficult, and I know I'm going to not be using most of those cables. But let's just take a look at it and see what happens, because ideally with a case like this, when aesthetics are your #1 priority, that you would use a modular power supply. But now that I'm looking at it, it appears that there's a it appears down here in the power supply, it appears to be covered. So if that's the case, then this is an irrelevant concern, because all of the cables would be underneath this shroud that the power supply is hidden, and if that's the case, we're fine. We're fine. And yeah, there's a filter down here on the bottom so the fan can breathe, and the filter can come out to be cleaned. Easy peasy. We've got a filter up here on the top. This is, you see this a lot on the Corsair cases. It's a magnet that slides up there. And you've got room for a radiator to go up there as well, or multiple fans. We're not going to do any of that with this build. We're just going to make a super fast computer for regular, ordinary, non-gaming use. And if the person who buys it wants to turn it into a gaming computer, they could upgrade the power supply and slap in a graphics card, and they're good to go. That's all they're going to have to do. Michael C is telling me it's a 3-year warranty on the power supply. Very good, thank you for that. Now I will say that, like if you look at the warranty on this EVGA 500B, can anybody tell me what that the warranty is on an EVGA 500B power supply? All right, let's get the side panels off. Let's come around here. My thanks to Tony over at Silverstone, as always, for getting me the product and considering my channel for reviews for their products. And I want to give a shout out to a gentleman. His name is Peter Laycock, and Peter has contributed in the past, and he's contributed again. And I want to say that this video is being brought to you by Peter Laycock. Here I am looking for sponsors, and who'd have thought I'd have a couple of viewers that are effectively my sponsors. I definitely want to give him a shout out. And if you guys ever see him in the chat room, you be sure and let him know that you appreciate his generosity, because that's really nice of him. The EVGA power supply has a 5-year warranty. Okay. And yes, EVGA G2 or G3 series power supplies have a 10-year warranty. Oh, wait a minute. Michael C says it's a 3-year warranty, so it's the same warranty on this. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, 3 years. 3 years. That makes sense, because it's cheap. What you have to understand when you're shopping for, so many people just look at the price. It's the same, right? A 1080 Ti is a 1080 Ti. No, it doesn't work like that. Some have better cooling systems, better warranties, better support. You can't just assume that price is the only differentiating factor from one product to another. I mean, you can if you want to, but you're going to be in for some disappointment. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's get this apart. 1, 2, 3. It's been brought to my attention that Corsair is discontinued the 200R case, much to my chagrin. I am not happy about that at all. It seemed like they were hard to get for a while, and then they came back in, and now they're all sold out again. If you like the 200R case, and you can find one, if I were you, I'd buy it. Because what Corsair is offering as replacements, I don't like at all. There's no other Corsair case in that price range with that design. The Corsair just doesn't make anything like it. I think Corsair is making a huge, huge mistake, and I'll be taking my business for cases, for basic cases. I've always considered the 200R the best value for the money. And now that Corsair is supposedly, you know, they're not going to sell it anymore, it's time for me to look to another manufacturer for a case that's equivalent to the 200R in value and in usability. The fact that, you know, you can hold 4 SSDs and 4 hard drives, plus, you know, I'd like to have at least one expansion external bay for DVD. No glass windows. I got to have 2 USB 3s up front, not one USB 2 and one USB 3. That's really stupid and a waste of a connector. Every connector uses 2. So if the connector only feeds off one, you lost the other one. There's no getting it back. So so the case has to have no case window. It has to be able to hold multiple SSDs, multiple hard drives, have a space for a memory card reader or DVD drive, and needs to be right around the $60 range. So if anybody has any suggestions, I would appreciate it. I know most of the cases today, they don't have front bays anymore. I don't want any case doors. If it's got a case door or a case window, I'm not interested in it. It's got to have 2 USB 3s up front, otherwise I'm not interested in it. And it's got to cost right around $60-65. So if anybody has any suggestions, I'd love to hear them, because Corsair's got nothing, unfortunately. Corsair makes other cases that I'll still buy, but those are specialty one-offs. When it comes to generic cases, the 200R was it. And who's ever made that decision at Corsair, I hope they lose their job. Okay, how does this come off? I don't know. I don't know how this panel comes up. It should just... Does it slide back? Yeah, it slides back. Okay, there's one. That's all glass, all tempered glass. As far as I know, the 270 has a case window. I could be wrong. I mean, I'd have to pull it up. I think the 270, let me pull it up again. I can't remember what I didn't like about the 270R. Did it not have front bays? You guys are hearing me when I said it has to have front bays? So please don't recommend a case that doesn't have front bays. Okay, let's go back here. DB says they don't make enough off a $60 case. Well, here's an idea. Charge more for it. Oh my God, that's not rocket science. It's not like, oh no, we'll have to cancel making this case. No, if that's seriously the reason why, then they need to adjust the price. I'll gladly pay a few more dollars for it. In fact, I have in the past. Cooler Masters N300 case. Let's take a quick look at that. Cooler Masters N300. I do like the Cooler Master cases I've worked on. Let's take a look at it. It seems to be over $100 though. I really need it down cheaper than that. I need to be 80 bucks or less. 60 would be ideal. You know, something that puts it right along with the 200R. Is that an ATX case or is that a Micro-ATX case? And I think it's got a window, the 300. I can't have a case window. large side panel window. Maybe they make it without the window. The case has got to be ATX. It cannot be Micro-ATX. But I don't know. I can't tell. Is this case Micro-ATX or not? I'm looking on the specs and I don't see anything on the specs on the form factor. Supports up to 8 hard disk drives. That's a bit much. I really only needed to support 3 or more. I don't see any information with regards to ATX or Micro-ATX on that case. Not sure. It is ATX, okay. Comes with or without a window, okay, well that's good. Now is it available for about $80 or less? Fractal Design, as far as I know, don't make any cases with front bays. Correct me if I'm wrong. Cooler Master N400 is around 60. Let's take a look at that. Cooler Master N400. Yeah, I see it for 60 bucks. That's a good sign. Yeah, I don't like those switches there. So the problem with this case is it's really wide. It's far too wide. And with the switches and the USB ports off to the side, it makes it difficult to reach down. These cases usually sit on the floors of offices. And so to reach down that far, it's better if they're up on top, either up on the top here or up on the top of the front, either one. So you can like think about plugging in a USB hard drive. Where's that gonna go on that case? You're just gonna let it hang? It's not gonna work, so no. Well, it does meet many of my requirements. The case is too wide and I can't have the buttons along the side or along the edges. The USB and buttons have to go on the top or across the front. The problem with the buttons on the top is if a customer places something on and they hit the button, they shut their computer off. That's why the 200R was the perfect case. The perfect case because you had the ability to plug devices in and then rest them on top of the case. And with the buttons and everything being right up here at the top, it was very easy to access. You didn't have to bend down really far when the tower's sitting on the floor. So I'm really looking for something that meets that same ergonomics that the 200R has in that price range with the 2 USB 3.0s and at least one 5.25 inch bay. So in the meantime, I don't want to talk about other cases because I have this beautiful case right here in front of me. So go ahead and leave your suggestions in the comments after the video airs. I'd very much like to take a look at what's available. I've been sort of closed-minded with what other cases are available in that range because I've been so happy with the 200R. And I think I'll be sending Corsair a link to this video to let them know what I believe is an extraordinarily foolish marketing move. If they were smart, if Corsair was smart, they would continue to make that case. And if they need to mark it up a little bit, mark it up. But to completely stop manufacturing it, it's just stupid. People want that case. Why would you? It's been Corsair's #1 selling case for years. It's like Coca-Cola. This is a new Coke moment, Corsair. Congratulations, Corsair. Getting rid of the 200R is the equivalent of Coca-Cola dropping Coke Classic and replacing it with new Coke. You guys did it. As much as I love you guys, I am beside myself. There's some weird thing going on at that company that defies logic. And I don't understand what it is and I don't want to know. You should fix it and make it right. You're forcing me to have to take my business somewhere else. You're forcing me to have to research other case manufacturers. You're forcing me to go to your competition. Why would you do that? I just think it's stupid. All right, so we're going to put the power supply in right now. You see what I'm saying? It's got this shroud, so you're not going to see all these cables. It's all going to be hidden back here. So it turns out not using a modular power supply will be just fine. Now, this hard drive bay doesn't come out, but it does slide. That much I know. Because this is going to be a tight fit trying to get this in here. So if I want to, I can move that over. I don't have any plans to install a mechanical drive in this build, but if the person who wants to buy it wants me to put one in, we can certainly do that. I like that Silverstone is sticking with the black theme, and it's a black power supply made by a completely different manufacturer. It's nice when all of the manufacturers get on the same page and we agree to what are essentially standards of culture. They're not industry standards, they're just defined organically by what the public is buying and what the public is wanting. I need to get some screws. I know there's, you know what, there may be some screws here. Let's turn this around. What do we have right here? Ah, here we go. So this is what we get for our screws. Maybe we need to set up a, what was that petition site? We should petition Corsair to not drop the $200. What a shame that you'd have to petition a company to make money. You know what, on second thought, if Corsair wants to bury themselves, that's their decision. I'll just go somewhere else with my business. Brass standoffs, I haven't seen those in a long time. They're usually silver. That's interesting. These are just standard screws. Oh, look, they even give you, this is a nice touch, Silverstone. They give you a little socket, a little 5mm socket. So your standoffs, you don't need to have a special tool like I do. And then it just uses a regular Phillips screwdriver right there. So you can, so there's no standoffs pre-installed in the case. That's something the Corsair 200R has. Oh, God. I do have two brand new Corsair 200Rs in the box that don't have any plans. So you'll still see a few more here on the channel eventually. I'll find projects for them. I really need to stop talking about it. This video is all about Silverstone. And the Silverstone case is in a different league than the Corsair 200R. The 200R is a basic, cheap, good case for basic use. This is a showpiece. So I want to make sure that I'm not undermining the good folks over at Silverstone by talking about competitors. It's a different design. It's where there might be cases like the 200R, you're never going to see another case like this. Silverstone, I will give them credit for that. The originality in their designs may not be for everybody, but no one can deny that they're very original in their in the design process of their cases. And you know, hey, I think that's great. The more variety we have, the more you're able to make a computer case that's more reflective of your personality. All right, so let me just scroll back here. I missed a contribution. I want to give that shout out real quick. Anyone in the UK need a Corsair 200R? Scan International Computers has them for sale. Brytech. Hi, Brytech. Nick Poverman. Vlashchav Ivanov. Nick Poverman, I said. Michael C. Hey, guys. Christopher Ash. Christopher has contributed €2. Oh, he looked at Be Quiet Pure Base 600. I've heard so much about Be Quiet. I've never used any of their products, not their coolers, not their power supplies, and I guess they make cases. I definitely need to look into that because I'm hearing lots of good things about Be Quiet. Thank you for the suggestion. The Nuka-Cola. So the Nuka-Cola is a limited edition. There's only 2,000 of them made, and I have 3 of them in my house right now. So probably within a month, they'll be sold out, and you won't be able to get them anymore. Where did you read that the case is Corsair's best-selling case? I interviewed Corsair when I was with Newegg at the Consumer Electronics Show, CES 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago? And at that time, during the interview, Corsair, when I talked about the 200R and how wonderful it is, that's when they confirmed that that has been their best-selling case for years. Now, if that's changed in the last 3 years, that's entirely possible. The Antec 300, I think, is a very large, well, no, he says it's a mid-tower. I'd have to look at it again. I haven't looked at Antec in a while. The Thermaltake suppressor F31 with no window, $69.99. Ooh, I'll have to look at that one too. Yeah, the case cannot have a window, and it must have two USB 3.0s on the front. And it must have a, holy smokes, James Zender has contributed $100. Wow. Well, thank you, James. Thank you so much. I wish you would have contributed that through TechVets so that I could email you and say thank you. I don't have any contact info for you, and I have no way to refund it either. So, but thank you for your contribution. That means the world to me. Another contribution has come in from Last Breeze, has contributed $5. Donating to fund for a tiny gravestone to set on your counter. Rest in peace, 200R. Yeah, I imagine the 200R cases are still out there. I've set an auto notify alert for Newegg. I think if Newegg gets back in stock with them. So here's my problem. I have a house, and I don't have any place to store these cases. So even if I could buy 10 of them, I'd have no place to put them. Ultimately, you know, the customer needs to decide what the customer wants, and most of the time customers rely on me for advice. And I'm happy to move along a 200R if I've got it. Like I said, I have 2 spares. In fact, they just arrived in the mail today. And one of them was going to be used for that motherboard back there. Colin Hilton's there in the chat, Dave Murray, Dennis Tenhoof, Platter Jockey. Thank you guys so much for your contributions as moderators, for doing what you do and keeping it civil in the chat. I really appreciate that. Ooh, the Be Quiet Pure Base 600. It looks like it's meeting all of my requirements. Let's take a look. The back looks good. The front, I need to see the top of the front. Where's the top? I need to see the power switches and stuff. Okay, okay, that's fine. I don't like, there's some kind of switch on the front, I'm guessing, for fan control. I don't like that at all. If it didn't have that switch, it would almost be perfect. I also don't like how the top comes off, that plastic top for a radiator to optionally go in there. This is the kind of stuff that breaks in everyday use, folks. So no, I'm sorry, the Be Quiet case is not gonna work for me. Too many things can be broken on it, and I don't like that fan controller. There's no reason to have a fan controller anymore. Motherboards take care of all this for us. So yeah, thanks for the suggestion. It's not gonna work. Boy, that was close. It was so close. All right, let me get back to work, guys. We'll carry this conversation on in the comments after the video's released. I really need to focus here. This is about Silverstone today. Let's keep the focus on Silverstone. They were very kind to send me the case, and I want to make sure that they get the attention they deserve. And we'll make another video to talk about other cases. Let's focus now on this one, because this is a beauty. It's very unique, it's very different. And I'm already seeing something I really like right here. Do you see how this indents? Can you even tell? This bends and goes inside. Think of all the cable management you can shove right in here. Look at how deep that is. I mean, that's, hold on, that's crazy. I've never seen cable management that deep before. Me likey. It's about 1 inch and 3/4, no. Inch and a half. Boy, it seems deeper than 1.5 inches. Yeah, it's a little bit more than that. Somewhere between 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches. It's hard to get in there with this. Well, I like that. I like that a lot. Because, you know, this is a big fat cable. And so to be able to run it right up here without having to worry about that glass panel fitting on, it's not like, you see me on the 200R, you see me push down on it like I'm closing a suitcase that's overfilled. You can't do that with a glass panel. You certainly don't want to. At the very least, you'll scratch the glass up with the cables. So this is a brilliant idea. Kudos to Silverstone for thinking of that. And then where the motherboard sits, that's where it comes out, because obviously the motherboard needs to have room for coolers and things. And so if everything was pushed forward, you'd be more limited there. So that's a great idea. The other thing I noticed on this case is right here, there is a shelf. I don't know how well you can see it, but there's a little shelf right here. And that's to support a long graphics card. A big heavy graphics card is to rest on this. So to help take the weight off of it. And a well thought out design there as well. So kudos to Silverstone for that. And it looks like there's just one screw to take it out. If, like, we're not going to use it, but I'm not going to take it out because it's not going to get in the way. But I suppose if you didn't like how it looked through the glass window, you just could remove it. And it looks like it's movable so that you can adjust it depending on where your graphics card is going to go. Keeping in mind that the motherboard's going to go inverted. It's going to be upside down. So what's the top will be the bottom, all right? I wanted to get some screws to put this power supply in. I don't like these screws for the power supply. They're just a little weak for my preferences. So I'm gonna use just some regular standard black computer screws that typically come with the power supplies. And apparently, I did not keep them with this power supply. So I have to find where I put them. I have a place. Everything has a place. Found him. Okay. Guys like my shirt today? I'm turning Japanese. I think I'm turning Japanese. Well, I think so. I'm styling. I don't like long sleeve shirts. It's hot. But damn, I look good. Britex says, I find all glass cases get hot. I have an all glass case. And when gaming temps got high, the glass gets hot. Yeah, I just don't think this would be an ideal gaming rig unless you go liquid cooling all the way across. If you go liquid cooling, at least on the CPU, I think you'll be better off. And obviously if you can liquid cool the graphics card, I mean, they have graphics cards now where you don't even, they're all in one already built in. So you could put one radiator, say for the graphics card here, and then you could put the other radiator for the CPU up here or here. So there's a pretty expansive for as small as a case that it is. It is really about looks. Let's be sure that you understand, not everybody wants a computer the way you want it. Some people want something that's really flashy and stylish. It may be going into a showroom. It may be just something that somebody just prefers because they don't want a computer like everybody else has. And they may not be gamers. And if they are gamers, like I said, with appropriate cooling, you shouldn't have a problem with regards to any airflow issues. And then I'm going to just lock this driver down just to tighten this down a little bit. And I'm going to flip this power supply switch to the off position. There we go. Get rid of that. And just push all that over there. Now, that's our power supply installed. That's not too difficult. Now let's prep the motherboard. I'm not going to get the overhead out, guys. We'll just do this really quick. So let's temporarily set this aside. Ooh, it's very light when the glass is off of it. It's a lot lighter. Now I've been using a lot of A-Data stuff lately. I've been real happy with A-Data. They're not the highest performing parts, but they're pretty darn fast, and they're very competitively priced. Do you remember the other day I said you should be able to pick up a 500 gig SSD, whether it's M.2 or a 2.5 inch, for under $100? Well, since then, things have changed. You should now be able to pick one up for under $90. I'm seeing multiple drives from Crucial to Intel, A-Data, Silicon Power, regularly on sale for $90 or less for 500 gigs. I won't even consider 128 or 240 anymore. For the price now, 500 is the minimum that I'm recommending for all my customer builds. And ideally, I don't want to use 2.5 inch drives anymore. I only want to use M.2s. They don't have to be NVMe drives. A regular M.2 SATA drive runs pretty much the same price, and there's no cabling involved. And that's my primary reason for recommending the M.2 version. It's just a lot easier of an install, less cable management, and same reliability, same endurance. All right, so our Micro-ATX board for this build is, as I mentioned, the GIGABYTE B360M. The only thing that's really going to differentiate this between a regular computer and a gaming computer is the graphics card. Lost Level Games has contributed $10. He says, I've been using the Panasonic EY7410 cordless screwdriver that you see me use here for all of my gaming repairs at my shops. Thanks for recommending the screwdriver a few years ago. I have one for home and one for work. Hope all is well, Carrie. Yeah, Lost Level Games. If you've probably experienced the same thing I do, that battery lasts forever. I probably charge that once every other month. It's a really good battery. And it comes with 2 batteries, and I never use the other one. I'm always sure to, when I charge that one, I charge them both just to keep it cycling. The charging is fast, and it's not a cheap screwdriver. It's about $160, $170. But if you're doing it for a living, it's easily justified. I can understand why you would buy 2, one for home and one for work. I totally get that. But if you're just building one computer and you don't plan to build any more, don't waste your money on an expensive cordless driver. Turn the screws by hand. The killer on this Panasonic is the auto off clutch. When it hits the preset clutch setting, the screwdriver turns off. It doesn't go brrr, you know, like a lot of drivers do, which is bad on the clutch if you do it too much. And it's noisy. And sometimes customers, if they're watching you work, they think that sound is the driver slipping inside of the screw and that you're stripping the screw out. That's not what's happening. So with the auto off clutch, it's just really clear that, you know, it torqued to the setting that you specified and then it shut off. And that saves batteries, it saves on noise, it saves on the clutch. And then again, any customer that's looking over your shoulder doesn't have to worry that you're stripping the screws out from how it sounds. So all those reasons are why I like the EY7410. That is our one-page instruction manual, and then there's a driver disc, and that is it. So we're gonna go ahead and put this right up here. This does have built-in video, which we will be using on this build today. That can go right over there. There's our I/O shield. I'm going to take this out of the bag and I'll put it in a moment when I bring the case back so you guys can watch how that goes in. It's going to go in upside down. I want to keep stressing to you, everything in this case is upside down. Usually I can pull that plastic apart, but I'm not having any luck today. Too bad the I/O shield's not black. This is a very inexpensive motherboard though. I think it was 70 bucks. So you're not gonna get the black I/O shield at that price range. I don't know why it costs more. I suppose a can of paint would fix that, spray paint. Terry McGill's contributed 10 Australian dollars. Hi, Uncle Kerry. Keep up your good work. Well, thank you, Terry. Terry and Kerry. Which one of us is male and which one of us is female? How would you know? Not by our names. They're both male, I'm sure. We all can't be Bryans. All right, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the parts off of this ASRock Z370 Pro. I don't have any complaints about this ASRock board. I was planning, it's a long story, but this is going to be used in something entirely different. The reason I bought it is no longer applicable. And let's see, we're going to go to sockets 1 and 2 first, I think. Did my instructions say which sockets to use first? I'm going to assume 1 and 2. On a lot of boards, you start with the RAM closest to the CPU. Some boards it doesn't matter. So I'm going to use the gray sockets. This is ADATA XPG RAM. Each one of these sticks of RAM represents 8, is it 8 gigs? Yeah, it's 8 gigs. The link for it is in the video notes, if you're curious. It's a good value for what you get. It's got little heat spreaders on it. Is that lined up? 1, 2. All right, there's 1. And then let's take out the other one. And we're just going to put that one in right here. Yeah, I think you're going to be seeing a lot more stuff from ADATA on my channel. I think for the price, for what you get, you know, Samsung is really, really good on their SSDs, but they're pricey. ADATA is really, really good on their SSDs, and they're not pricey. Now I'm going to pull the ADATA NVMe SSD out. So let's take this ADATA drive out. Oh, I have an idea. So there's our NVMe drive. I wonder, should I do it? Should I do it? ADATA sent me this M.2 cooler. It's supposed to go with that. It's called the XPG Storm. Here it is. I think I found a build to use this on. Now you can use this on any M.2 drive, NVMe or SATA. This is an RGB M.2 cooler. It looks like a tiny little graphics card. It's got a little fan on it. Let's use it. I am a bit concerned if we threw a graphics card on here, it would probably just cover this up. Actually, this might be too tall. That's a very nerdy thing to say. Actually, this might be too tall. See how tall that is? So the idea is you are gonna cool your M.2 drive down with this cooler, and then it's got connectors for the RGB, for the fan. And I've not used this because I haven't found a build where it will really fit well. And my concern is, if I place it here on the board, let's just say it's right there, I don't think my graphics card, if a graphics card was gonna be added here, I don't know if I can bring that up and show you a little closer. It's gonna get in the way of the graphics card install. See that? Can you see? If the M.2 was down here in this section, then it would be more appropriate. So it looks like I'm not going to use this after all. Wah wah, psych, not happening. So it was a good thought. This will show up in some other project in the future, but not on this build. Because when I sell this computer, I want the customer to be able to add a graphics card in the future without having to disassemble anything and remove the heatsink. And this heatsink also has a pair of wires to power the fan and another wire pair for the RGB lighting control. So yeah, I'm not going to use it, but do know that it exists. Do know that you do not have to use it with any specific manufacturer of M.2 drive. It's not very expensive. I think they're 30 bucks. But I'll tell you what I will use is I still have an EKWB M2 heatsink. I have 2 of those still left over from the Threadripper build because that motherboard we used on Threadripper had its own heatsinks. So I said, you know, I'll just keep them. They'll show up in something. And well, here we are. I like the idea of putting a heatsink on the M.2, especially in NVMe, because they do get hot. And when they get hot, they slow down. Patrick Grissaw says, I prefer the M2 slot behind the motherboard. Yeah, I'm with you. But that really wouldn't do you any good with that colorful cooler. That would be far too wide to fit there. So the EKWB blocks for the M.2, well, they're not blocks, they're just heat shields, heat spreaders. I will find the right words eventually. If I say enough of them, I'm bound to hit one. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's take a look here. What do we have? Ah, yes. So there's our 2 pieces right here. This will be the top. This will be the bottom. And then generally, let's see, they're giving us 2 thermal pads. One is thinner than the other. I think the thin one goes on the bottom and the thick one goes on the top. I think. Let's see. Yeah, that's exactly it. 0.5 millimeter goes on the bottom, and the other thermal pad is 1 millimeter thick, and it goes on the top. This is really easy to put together. Super, super easy. Dear to TTE says, Silverstone's TP02M2 heatsink is one of the best. It's like 10 to 12 millimeters tall. Yeah, that's a little too tall, I think. Silverstone didn't send me one. Miguel Ramirez contributed $4.99. He says, hello, Kerry. Thought I'd say hello before I get to work. I'm helping a new client today. I'm loving the purple shirt. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Miguel. You have excellent taste, my friend. Okay. So I'm just going to take the little tape off the logo here. It's kind of annoying. Companies are like, yeah, we don't care if the whole thing gets scratched up as long as our logo remains scratch-free. So just cut out a piece of plastic small enough for the logo. Don't cover the whole thing. That'll cost too much money. It'd be far too easy to remove it. There it is. Totally worth it. And I'm going to need my scissors because I got to cut the thermal pad to fit. Remember, M.2 drives come in different lengths. Even though the heatsink is only one length, you think they could pretty much pre-cut it. But what do I know? What do I know? All right, so let's see. This is the thick one. And I will peel off one side of this and then place it down on top here. It's not an exact science. Just try and get it close to the edge and try to keep it centered as best you can. No one's ever going to take it off and look at it unless it's broken. Okay. looks like about it right there. And I'm going to cut that. That'll be trash. So that's the thermal tape right there. And then I will take the bottom part here, and we use the thinner thermal tape. I don't think there's a front or a back. So just pick a side. Do your best to take it right to the edge. Try and keep it centered as much as possible. Most of your heat's going to be right down the middle. There we go. And then I'm going to cut off the excess, so right about there. And then all this is extra that can go in the trash. And we're just going to sandwich these pieces together. So when you see this big, on this M.2 drive, on every M.2 drive, you're going to see a really big chip, which does not represent the other side. The other side's kind of plain, and this side has that great big, in this case, the big silver, I think that's the controller. Anyway, this is where the heat's coming off, this side. So that's the side that you want to place the silver part on. And I can just verify that by putting this into the socket and making sure that I have, yeah, that is the side that faces up. So what I'm going to do here is peel this protective tape here on the other side. Remember, you don't want to peel this off until you're ready to put it on there. We want to keep it as free of any contaminants, which includes dust, oils from your skin, et cetera, et cetera. Not that you're going to ruin it if you touch it, but just best practices, right? Best practices. I always try to hold these components by the edges. Dennis has contributed €5. Hello, maybe you could look at this case, Charcoon S25V. They sell here for 50 to 60 euros. All right, I'll have to look into that. So what I'm going to do is there's a little groove here where the screw goes in. We're going to line those grooves up. See what I just did? You see? You see? You see? You see? Okay. Okay? Okay. And then, to finish our little M2 sandwich, we put on our bottom piece of bread, peel the tape, line up that little groove with the little groove there. Remember, that little groove is where the screw's going to go, so you better make sure that you have access to line the screw up to install it. And that's pretty much what it's going to look like. And that's going to help keep this M.2 drive nice and cool. And what keeps this together are just a pair of clips. And they're just little clips like this. They don't require anything special to put on. You see there's a little cutout here on the bottom, and this should fit on like this if memory serves. Should be able to just push this on. I know I did this wrong the first time, and it's been a while, so I can't remember what I did, but I think it's just really easy. I think you just push it down and it clips on. It's kind of hard to keep it all held together and lined up at the same time. I think what I do is I put it on one hook right like this, as I recall. Line it up with the groove. Try and make sure this M.2 drive is as centered as I can get it. I think that looks good. I think I'm doing something wrong here. This wasn't this difficult. Come around the other side first. Let's hook it on the lip here, and bring it around. It definitely wasn't this difficult last time I did it, so I'm doing something the hard way. I thought for sure this is how I did it last time. And it just snapped right in last time. There was no effort at all, so if I'm exerting this much effort, I'm doing it wrong. Let's try that. Just can't seem to get that to reach for some reason. It should just snap in. It's very close. I'm screwing something up. I'm not doing something right. As I recall, last time I put one side on first and then I bent it around, but it just doesn't seem to be working for me today. I thought this is how I did it last time. It just doesn't want to line up correctly. Last time it just slapped right on there, piece of cake. Oh, the A data chip is thicker. Is that why? That would explain it. Well, I might have to just use a little muscle. That thermal tape is compressible, so we just have to muscle it in there. Ooh, I'm close. I'm close. So close. I think I needed like a little screwdriver or something to bend that piece back. Come on, you're close. Come on. You know what? The tighter it fits, the better. Come on. I am just so close. It just doesn't quite go down. Cramping. Let's try. Oh, there it is. Yeah, that's a thicker drive. That's what it is. So that's one clip on, and now the other clip should go in a lot easier, with the keyword being should. Totally worth it. Only have to do it once. That thermal tape is just a little bit, I cut it a little bit long. So we'll go up on that side. We'll use some muscles here, bring that around. Oh, cramping. Oh, that hurts. Come on. I know you can do it. You can do it. You know, you don't have to use both pieces of thermal tape. You don't have to struggle like this. But I'm going to do it anyway, because now it's just a question of making a point. Oh, gosh, just now that it's cramped, it's cramping easier. I have a solution for this, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to bring out the car mechanic tools. Where's my hammer? Ah, channel locks, that ought to do it. If channel locks don't do it, I'll break it in half. Now, let me preface what I'm about to do by telling you this is not the right tool for the job. These are delicate electronics. And this is primarily used for plumbing. But I am only going to squeeze the heatsink. I'm not actually going to touch the M.2 drive underneath. This just may not fit. It's very close. I mean, I'm just almost there. Very close. Yeah. Might have to scrap this idea, ladies and gentlemen. This drive may just be too thick. I don't want to crush it. It's just so close. It's killing me. Come on. I'm probably scratching up the top of it too, doing it this way. Oh, I think I got it. I did it! Yeah, I put a little scratch in it. You can see it. What are you going to do? So if you're going to buy an EKWB heatsink for your M.2 drive, pay attention to the M.2 drives that you buy. Some are thicker than others, apparently. First time I've encountered that. But now it's on there. It's not going anywhere. It's done. So we're good. Magni Johansson has contributed 55 Norwegian kroner, says, I'm glad I watched you use the Hyper 212 Evo. Now there's little to no noise while recording with a condenser mic. It's a great product and a great price. Thank you. I agree. I mean, it's hard to believe how well that Hyper 212 performs, how effective it is. Monitor your temps. It's incredibly effective at dissipating heat. And for $30 US, it's cheap. Donnie Seegers contributed $5. He says, soon I will be getting ready to build myself a wooden case for my new Ryzen system. I can't wait. Thanks for sharing your computer builds with us. If you film your build and post it to YouTube, I'm more than happy to share your video with the viewers here and tell your story, you know, explain why you picked the parts you picked, what the machine is gonna, what the job of the machine is gonna be. You know, is it for gaming? What are you going to use the machine for? And then show yourself building it. And yeah, I'm happy to share your builds. I think it's very inspirational to others. I also believe that you'll have a better appreciation for how difficult it is to film a build if you do one yourself. You'll say, wow, I didn't realize how complicated that was. One person submitted a build and you can't hear them at all. Their audio is messed up. And sometimes it's little stupid stuff like that that can be frustrating when you're trying to film something. All right, so I want to put this little screw back here that's for the M.2 drive on the ASRock board because it's a little teeny tiny screw and I don't want to lose it. And we will come back to this ASRock board on another day in another project. And if anybody wants to become a part of that project and have me build a computer utilizing this board, just reach out to me. You'll find my email address at tech-vets.com. Well, just Carrie at tech-vets.com. Or by submitting a donation using the donate button at tech-vets.com. I always respond by saying thank you. That's a different email address I respond from. And if you reply to that, some people want to know how to get my attention. That's always the sure way to get my attention. Money talks. When somebody gives, I want to show my appreciation. When somebody just wants to pick my brain for questions, they've never given me anything in return. They take my videos, which is great, and then they say, give me more, give me more. I may not see your message, but if you want to guarantee that I see it, any contribution amount through the donate button at tech-vets.com will result in an email of me saying thank you to you. And now you've got my attention and you can ask me what you want to ask me. All right, let's put this M.2 drive in here. My magnetism is getting weak on this driver. See, what I've done is I've cut that thermal tape just a little bit long and it's kind of in my way, so I need to kind of get that shaved out a little bit. I didn't need to make it that long. And the drive appears to be on a little bit of an angle here, so you just kind of push it over, which is hard to do now that those clamps are really holding it into position. But as long as the screw will line up, that's all I need it to do. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then my little screw just, where did it go? Oh, I see it, it's right there. And this is probably gonna require me to get my magnifying glasses out so I can see what's going on. It's so tiny. Much better. Now I can see. Okay, all right. Bring that up to the camera and I'll show you what I just got done here. Oh, here we go. Was that sexy or what? See that little tiny screw in there? It's kind of difficult to get at it, but it's fine. Clear this stuff off my counter so I have some room to work. Channel locks. Channel locks on a PC. What is this, The Verge? All right. Let's do this. Let's take this heatsink off. So we want to turn these little plastic towers in the direction of the arrow to get it to come off. Whenever you're installing these Intel coolers, you always want to make sure the arrow is in the opposite direction to install and in the direction of the arrow to remove. And we can lift up on each of these towers and then the whole thing will come off. Good thermal compound is already applied. We don't need to reapply it. I'm going to take the Core i5-8400 out of here. Try not to touch that thermal compound. And then we'll open this one up. Hey, get open. There we go. And that's just going to go in like this. We'll lower that back down. That little plastic lid is going to pop off. And we'll just put it over here for now. That'll protect those little delicate pins on the socket until we're ready to put another CPU in there. And then we can put our heatsink back on, so that means turning these little plastic towers back in the opposite direction of the arrow. Opposite direction of the arrow. The opposite direction of the arrow. And that means we're now ready to secure it into place, so we'll lock it down. I want the cable coming out of this side for cleaner cable management, although this cools effectively no matter how you install it. It can go on this way, or this way, or this way, or this way. So I just want to make sure that cable comes out towards where this plug is, and this plug is over there. That's our CPU fan right there. Usually it's a white plug and a white header, which it is in this case. Not always, usually. Then we're going to line up those little plastic towers with the hole in the board. We're going to do opposite corners using our thumbs. You'll hear it click when it locks in. There's 1, 2, 3. That's how easy it is to install a stock cooler. It's a lot different than a Hyper 212 Evo, I'll tell you that. Actually, any third-party cooler is generally more difficult to install, but they also cool better. But that's a lot of buts. The Intel stock fan is intended to be used with the Intel CPU running at stock speeds, and it all conforms within the parameters set forth by the engineers and the thermodynamics engineers. Unlike you, they're not just guessing, they actually do the math and they do the testing. And as long as you're not overclocking, there's no reason, other than perhaps noise in some systems. Mostly the i7s tend to be noisy. The i5 has just been dead silent in my experience. But with that said, a Hyper 212 Evo is even quieter. I just want to wrap that cable up right now since we've got it open and available. There we go. We're ready to put the motherboard in the case. So let's get back to our Silverstone. And we need to determine where the standoffs need to go. Remember, there are no standoffs pre-installed here, and the motherboard is going to go in upside down. So when we put our I/O shield in, we put it in upside down, which means the audio holes have to go up on the top. Yeah. Keyboard holes on the bottom, upside down. So that means, let's see, we're gonna need to put a standoff. I gotta do this based on memory. One's gonna have to go here. One is going to have to go here. And then I think one goes here. And then one will go, I have to check, I'm not sure. Let's take a look. Yeah. Believe it or not, I think we're going to use 6 of these, which is fascinating because I install full-size ATX boards that only use 5. One thing's for sure, it ain't going nowhere. Now, I'm not going to use that little socket. I mean, it's nice that Silverstone includes that little socket here for these little standoffs, but I have a much better tool. You can just buy a socket nut driver set. This is 5mm, and it just makes this easy work. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think the last 2, I think one goes right here, if I'm not mistaken. And then the other one will go right up here. I think those are all going to line with the motherboard holes, but I need to just double check it when I'm done. The worst thing you can do is leave a standoff where there is no mounting hole behind them in the motherboard, and so it'll end up being hidden to you. You won't be able to see it, and it will ground out against something metal on the back of the motherboard and could short the whole thing out and cause physical damage. Could even cause it to release smoke and spark. So it's a very simple thing to check. All you have to do is count how many holes your motherboard has and count how many standoffs you have. That's a good place to start. Andy Nicolaus contributed £2. Thank you, Andy. So remember, board's going in upside down. Let's take a look that everything lines up now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's all of it. That's all of it right there. Unfortunately, they don't give you a little post to hold the board into position. And normally when you install a motherboard, you would want to do it with the case laying flat, so you're letting gravity help you. But if I do that, you're not really going to be able to see much. So I'm going to work a little bit harder just for you. Once we get the first one in, everything else should fly. That's it. Motherboard's installed, just that easy. So one of the things I can tell you I don't like, because it's motherboards, when they're engineered, the engineers aren't thinking you're going to put your motherboard in upside down. So this 8-pin CPU power cable, where's the cable going to run? Well, it turns out there's a little hole right in here. So we'll be able to go from here to there, which does help the cable management. And we're going to have to use this same hole to get the 24-pin connector here. We're going to run right through here. I don't know how well you can see that. There's a grommet right there. So Silverstone has thought that through, but it's still a little, I kind of wish the glass panel wasn't going to expose all of that. I wish they thought of another way. But I think it's a condition of, by insisting you want that board in upside down, you're going to pay a price for it. So there it is. I've never been a fan of inverted case design. Never seen any reason why that's worth it. But maybe I'll change my mind when I see what this looks like when it's done. So here's our 24-pin power cable for the motherboard. We'll go ahead and slap that bad boy on right now. It's going to go on right here. Sorry guys, I can barely see this. There it is. Push that slack to, yes. I just think that looks terrible. I wish there was a better way. Oh well, it is what it is. Let's go. Video card power. So this is our 8-pin power, or CPU power. Bring that one up, and then that's going to plug in right here. Look at that. I guess it's not too terrible. I don't know. What do you guys think? Not much I can do. And then all the umbilicals are going to go up here, so I guess we're going to come in through this hole and run it through here to there, across this distance. Well, they can't put the hole here because you might have a board that fits in here, I guess. I mean, that's a Micro-ATX board, so now that I think about it, why can't they put a hole here so I can go a shorter route, keep the cables as hidden as possible? You'll see that shelf for the graphics card aligns perfectly pre-installed right there. So if you have a long graphics card, that's going to go right along that line onto that shelf to help support the weight of the card. Let me make sure all of my I/O ports are aligned properly and that nothing's blocking them. I should have done that a little earlier, but it just felt good when I put it in, so I just assumed. And in this case, yeah, everything looks good. No problems. All right. front switches and LEDs. That's all coming through here. Nice that they have some Velcro wire management here, but it looks like they've got it coming in at the bottom, but it has to go to the top. Why would they do that? Oh, we can go in on an angle here. I just realized we can go in on an angle. So let's do that. So this stuff here, let's temporarily remove this. Let's see, what do we want to do first? This is our USB 3.0. With everything upside down, it's confusing. Where's that going to go? It's going to go right here. So, wait, do I have two USB 3.0s? I do. Oh, this has a USB Type-C connector on top. That's a nice touch. But I don't like that I'm wasting. You see how there's only one cable here? But the connector that plugs into consumes two. So you're plugging in one USB into a connector that gives you two USB. So what happens to the other USB? You don't get to use it. Too bad. Bad design, Silverstone. I cannot approve of this. We're not going to use the single one. That is a complete waste and loss of an entire USB port. And on this motherboard, I think I only have one USB 3 connector. I don't think I have two. So I have to pick. So do I want two USBs or do I want one? It's a pretty easy decision to make. If this case did not have the USB Type-C connector and got rid of this front header, I think it would be improved. This is the kind of stuff that confuses first-time builders, and you can easily buy an adapter to go from a Type A connector to a Type C. If Silverstone wanted to just include a little adapter for people, they could have done that. I cannot agree with this. Anytime you have one USB port that plugs into a connector that provides two USBs, you lose a USB connector. You completely lose it. You don't get it back. There's no way you can get it back other than to not use it. So I don't like that. I'm just being honest in my review with this case. I really feel like Silverstone has put form over function here. So that's our USB 3. That'll be the 2. See right up here on the top, we have two USB 3s, and then right next to it there's a Type-C connector. And that single Type-C connector is going to consume two USB ports, but only give you one in return. That is a ripoff. How about if I give you trying to think of a good analogy. How about if I give you $10 and you give me $20? You're gonna go, well, where's my other 10 bucks? Too bad. That's what it's like. That's exactly what it's like. All right, this is our front port audio connector. Where's that gonna go? That usually goes over here. How am I supposed to get the cable from here to there? I wonder if I can get it to fit through that hole. I don't think that's what, no, the cable's not gonna be long enough. Cable's too short. It does reach. It goes the distance, but when it comes in, I'm about 2 inches too short. Story of my life. So, Silverstone, you should have given me a longer front port audio cable, and you have to know on most motherboards that front port audio is in this quadrant of the board, and if you don't give me a way to get to it and you don't give me a cable long enough, but you're giving me a glass window where everybody can see inside, and yet you leave me no choice but to run the cable across the front where everybody can see it, then maybe you shouldn't have a glass window. I don't approve of that design at all. So what I have to do is come in through here, and as ugly as it's gonna be, it's gonna go right up there. But if they'd have made this cable another 2 inches longer, I could have taken it and ran it right across and into that hole, and then still had some room to plug it in. As it is, it's too short. And you know what else I don't like? I don't like how that has come around that way, so I'm gonna disconnect this for a minute and reroute that. What I want to do is I want this cable to come in behind. How much money do you think it saves them to keep that cable 2 inches too short? And why would you design a cable to run the entire length of the glass panel? Maybe I'm missing something. It doesn't really add up for me. If the aesthetics are the #1 concern, then the cable management has got to be a #1 concern. There's just nothing I can do with this cable to hide it. Now, thankfully, all the cables are black against a black motherboard and a black case, and that's going to help. And the glass is tinted, but nonetheless, if they're going through the effort of inverting the board to make the install more difficult, then there should be some benefit to that. And one benefit would be potentially that the cable management would be more hidden, but it's not. It's more exposed. It's the exact opposite. If they would have designed this in a traditional sense, I think the cable management issues would not exist. So I'm having a really hard time understanding why they went with this design, because it doesn't make it look any better. I'm lost on that. Okay, now front switches. Where are my front switches at? Back behind here. Once again, they've split all these cables out. There's no reset switch. And there's no hard drive LED. What? Okay, we're gonna talk some more about Silverstone. I understand if you want to take away the reset switch. Most people don't use it. Never a good idea to have to use it. That's fine, I can accept that. But taking away my hard drive LED, as a technician, the only way I can tell oftentimes if a computer is locked up or if it's busy doing something is by looking at the hard drive activity light. You've robbed me of that. Why? Why did you do that? You gave me a USB 3C that I didn't ask for on a connector that robs, it takes 2 USBs and only gives me 1 in return. You're not giving me a hard drive LED. And like I said, with the reset switch, I don't care. So here we've got just a power LED and a power switch. That's all you have, nothing else. I can't say I've seen a case that stripped down. I would expect that out of a $20 case, not out of a case like this. This is a whole nother level of quality. And I'm very disappointed. I cannot recommend this case. At this point, I can safely say I cannot recommend it. I don't think it's well thought out. I don't think the engineers who designed it have ever built in it. And I would very much love to get one of the Silverstone design engineers responsible for this case in my kitchen and show me how to do this. And then furthermore, have them work on the computer and diagnose a problem with it when they have no hard drive LED. And then I want to compare how it looks with the cable management versus any other case where the motherboard goes in a regular way, and tell me, and still be able to tell me with a straight face that that looks better. It doesn't. The only thing I can give them credit for is for being different. But being different for the sake of being different doesn't make any sense. You need to be different in a sense that you're being better. And the case is gorgeous. It's a beautiful case. Why would you ruin it with an inverted board and no hard drive LED? And think about it. This case is with a glass panel. You're supposed to be showing off RGB lighting. What's better than a glass panel to show off your RGB lighting? So they take away a light? I mean, if you think about it, power LED and hard drive LED are your original computer lighting. So they are prioritizing flashing lights that mean nothing and taking away a flashing light that actually conveys information. Can anybody explain this to me? I can't even read the positive or negative on those connectors. I need to get the glasses out again. Ah, you gotta love getting older, folks. You gotta love it. Things that you used to be able to do just suddenly don't work the same anymore. Now, I believe if this motherboard is the same of all the others, that my power LED should go on right here. I think. I'm not looking at a manual. And they still, again, I don't know why Silverstone is continuing with this insistence on labeling positive and negative on switches. You want to be different, Silverstone? Get rid of the positive and negative on switches. There's no such thing as positive or negative on a switch. There's no justification. All you're doing is confusing a first-time builder trying to figure out where positive is when positive does not exist on a switch. So, if I'm being honest, and I'm giving you an honest review of a case, this case has a lot of promise. First thing I would do is turn the motherboard back around the way it's supposed to be, and I think everything else will fall into place. And make sure you get a power LED and a hard drive LED, for crying out loud. Removing a hard drive LED is absolutely asinine. Very, very disappointed. It is well constructed. It's not a cheap case. What a shame. They were so close to having something so nice. And they did that. I'd like to know who the decision maker was. It management or was it an engineer? I'm going to guess this was a management decision. And management is clearly disconnected from the people that use their products. Which, by the way, is a growing trend here in the United States of management that understands the financials, doesn't really understand the product that they're making. Because if I worked at Silverstone and we were having meetings about this case design, I wouldn't shut up about everything I've talked to you about. I would say you're making a big mistake here. I'm going to leave the back off of it for right now. And I think I'm going to go ahead and move this cage. How do I move it? Looks like there's one screw there. Can I slide this? There's got to be another screw somewhere. There's one. Oh, we got 4 screws. Okay. I don't like this either. There should not be 4. There's 5 screws in total to move the cage. I think they should have used some kind of a bracket or a post in opposite corners to reduce 2 of the screws. I'm going to move that as far to the front as I can get it. But I do like the idea it can be moved, so it's not all bad news. But what would be nicer is if they gave me a track I could slide it on instead of giving me predefined positions. I don't understand the excuse behind telling me I can have it here or here. Why can't you just make this whole thing a long groove on both sides and let me slide it? And then let me put it where I want it. so close. The design is so close to being good. And it just falls short in some very basic areas. And again, I can't think of why. I can't think of justification behind these limitations that they voluntarily imposed on themselves and on the customers that buy this case. Now look, I'm just going to shove this in here for now. And the reason I'm going to do that is I want to see what it looks like with the glass on it. Because maybe when it's all buttoned up, maybe my attitude will change. Let's see. I hope it turns on. I never do this. I never put the whole thing together until I've tested it. Just kind of fed up. I know you guys like this part the best, don't you? Gorgeous. All right, time for a power on self-test. We don't have any mechanical drive, we don't have any optical drive, so we don't have to hook up any SATA cables. There's nothing else to hook up with the power cables other than motherboard power. We're running on an M.2 NVMe drive, and this already might have an operating system on it. We'll see what happens. Let's get my monitor hooked up here. Should be able to use HDMI on this build. And we'll plug that in right here. And then I need a keyboard and mouse. Let me get the screwdriver out of the way. Keyboard and mouse right here is what we're going to utilize for this. Get the wireless dongle out of there. Make sure it's powered on. And we're going to plug in right up here to the top, and we'll test these USBs out and make sure that they work. And here we go. I have to flip the switch on the power supply to on. I got to turn it this way for you guys to see it. So we don't have any lights going on in here at all. So it might as well just be a black case. And power light just came on. It's kind of hard to see, but that's good if you're in a dark room. Here we go, should be booting. Yeah, this has Windows 10 on it already. We'll see if it loads. I have no idea what drivers are installed. I'd rather do a clean install for testing, but it's just good enough for now. In the motherboard box, I'll put the SATA cables and all these extra screws over here. We can add those as well. Oh, this has all the MSI drivers on it. Okay. That makes sense, because we took it off the MSI board. Tell you what. Let's take a quick look here at what BIOS version we've got. There's probably a new BIOS for us. Okay, this is a B350M DS3H BIOS version F3. I wonder if there's a new BIOS version. Let me grab my Wi-Fi adapter. Once again, I like to use this TP-Link Wi-Fi adapter because I don't have to load any drivers. Windows 10 sees it, loads the driver automatically, and I'm cooking with gas. Now, that's not to say a better driver, a more efficient driver might be available from TP-Link, but you have to be able to get on the network to download it. So as long as it gets me online, oh, it's already loaded the driver. We're already there. Let me log in. Loaded that driver quick. Let's bring up Google. And let's do a search for B360M-DS3H BIOS, which is going to take us to Gigabyte's website. And let's go full screen here. There's always two supports. There's a support up here and a support down here. The support down here is for the support for the product displayed. This is generic support. So I'm going to use the support for the product that which we're displaying with. This motherboard does support 7-color RGB LED strips, so we could add that to this case if we wanted to give it some color. Without any lights on the inside, it might as well be black. Why is support not coming up? There we go. BIOS. What BIOS version are we on? F10. Wow, that's a big jump, F3 to F10. That's a brand new motherboard. I just got it in the mail yesterday, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4 versions behind. Let's go ahead and grab that. And I'm going to need to grab a flash drive. So let me do that real quick. These are just cheap little 2 GB flash drives. They're getting harder and harder to find these things. They're perfect for BIOS flashing. Let me just find a port right here. There we go. And let's open this file. Oh, it's still downloading it. Slow. Let's see what I've missed in the chat while I've been working. Remus Constantine has contributed £5. Thank you, Remus. Did I miss anybody of these? Did I miss any contributions? I think I got them all. Finish downloading. Let's open this up and let's extract this. We'll just extract it all to the flash drive. I don't care. It's fine. It's fine. Done. Close, 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 shut down. And then we're gonna reboot. We'll hit the end button on the keyboard, and that will bring up a GIGABYTE's QFlash utility, so we can update the BIOS. Just take a second. Where's the end key? Well, it doesn't matter. I'll just do it this way. QFlash is right down here. So let's do that. QFlash, update BIOS. Already finds it that quick. Can't read the file, read it again. Can't read it again. Oh, can read it that time. I don't know what the difference is between fast and intact. I don't like the idea of flashing a BIOS fast. I guess it doesn't update the Intel management engine. I see that's not highlighted. So it defaults to intact. That's what I want. And now we're going to update the BIOS. Carrie, have you ever built a server for a client? No. Companies that need servers generally have IT departments for that. And the IT department's job is to get the server and maintain the server. So I don't believe anybody should be home building servers. If you're building it for yourself in your house, I don't even know why you would, but people do a lot of things I don't understand why they do. So absolutely not. If I had my own company, I wouldn't even build my own server. I would get a good warranted server from Dell and call them anytime I had a problem. That's a whole different line of work. Money's on the line, business is on the line. I wouldn't be home building a server. That's me. And again, most places that need a server have full-time IT staff, and it's their job. Coke is unhealthy to drink. Who said I drank it for health reasons? What a bizarre thing to say. Did you ever do something because you enjoy it? Do you ever eat food or drink something because it tastes good and you like it? People are weird. This is weird. Carrie, you gotta recycle that stuff. My recycle bin is filled up. It is overfilled. So anything left over goes in the trash because there's no room for it, guys. And please mind your business. Don't worry about what I recycle. That's really, really offensive. Did you know Windows plus the break key opens the computer config screen? I don't really know many of the little shortcuts I don't use often enough to remember them. Almost done with that BIOS flash. Hiram Sheth says hello from Australia. Hey Hiram, thanks for joining us. Looks like we're doing our first reboot after the BIOS flash. So we should be on BIOS F10 now. I always want to have the latest version of the BIOS, particularly before installing your operating system in a best case scenario, so that you don't have to suffer whatever problems the new BIOS fixes. A lot of people think you should wait until you have a problem. I would rather not have the problem. So. Pretty quick boot time, can't complain about that. I'm getting an error message, supercharger only supports MSI motherboard. That's an MSI thing that was installed. That's another reason I want to redo this, reinstall the OS. Nice clean install on this. Crystal disk mark. Let's see what the ADATA drive is doing. In fact, I'm going to kind of interrupt it a little bit here. Let's make sure I got the F10 by. Ooh, this thing's responsive as heck, man. I click in and things are just popping. Main board is now on version, yeah, F10. Perfect. Sees the memory. Yeah, 16 gigs of memory, 2 sticks of 8, which is good. Decent read speeds here, looking at 3,000. Did I have pizza last night? Yes, I did. I have my leftovers in the fridge. Grimaldi's. Grimaldi's, baby. I think I need something else. That Coke is running a little flat. What else can I have? I have another Canada Dry. There we go. What drink is the most popular in the USA? It used to be Coke. You're gonna have to Google that. A lot of people are more self-conscious of their sugar intake. A lot of people, the younger kids, this next generation, the millennials and the Z, Generation Z, are not eating as much types of food that my generation did. So not so much McDonald's, more Subway and Chipotle for that generation. My nephew Merrick doesn't drink any carbonated beverages. He doesn't like them. So good for him, you know. But they tend to be more health conscious. Or the funny thing is, in 20 years, they're going to probably read articles in the news that all that stuff they thought was healthy wasn't healthy. But to each his own. They'll still get in car accidents and die. They'll still get cancer and die. They'll still die. So try to enjoy life. And if that's how you enjoy it, then please continue on. I only drink beer. It would actually be healthier if I drank beer. It really would. It's healthier than Coke. Cookie time for the dog? No, dogs got their cookies earlier. Are Dell PC and laptops good? I like Dell laptops. I don't like Dell PCs. You can build a computer for less money than you can buy any Dell or pre-built computer. You know, if we're comparing the same amount of memory and the same amount of hard drive and the same type of hard drive or solid state drive with a better, more power efficient power supply and room to upgrade, you're always getting a better deal if you build it yourself. But laptops you can't build yourself. They're very restricted. So in that case, I would buy name brand laptops like Dell, Lenovo. I stay away from HP and Toshiba. I certainly would consider Asus and Acer, but I own several Dells and I'm happy with the Dells that I have. Although that one I brought out last time is a pretty loud fan. I don't use laptops that often anymore. People that smoke and do drugs don't seem to live too long either. There's a guy named Timothy Leary. Look him up. He lived a very long life and did some pretty serious drugs. There's a guy named George Burns. He drank and smoked cigars daily. Lived to be into his late 80s. There's a whole generation that went to war in World War II, drank and smoked, and lived to be in their 70s and 80s. So I don't know where you're getting your information, but if you're referring to people that overdose, that's a different story altogether. Carrie, do you drink much iced tea? I cannot stand the taste of tea or coffee. I don't like them. I don't like it. Yeah, Keith Richards. That's a good example. Yeah. There's an interesting perspective on drugs because people will take drugs from a pharmacy, which are more likely than not 10 times worse than any drug you buy off the street. Although there's no quality control in the drugs you buy off the street. But the idea that legal drugs are okay and illegal drugs are bad, you're just thinking like a sheep. You're not really using your head. Practice critical thinking. I'm not here to promote drugs. That's not what I'm doing. But what I am doing is saying, let's not throw a blanket over a certain section of anything and say all of that is bad and all of that's going to kill you. Medications are very helpful for people, some people, and some of the medications are illegal. And other medications that are legal are also very helpful to people and also very harmful to people. Don't even get me started down this road. All you need to do is listen to potential side effects that occur with any medication you see advertised on television here in the United States. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. The fact that that's legal does not make it okay, and it does not make it safe. What do I think of Coke Zero? It's disgusting. The human eye can only see 8 gigs of RAM. That's funny. George Burns lived to be 100? Wow. Wow, did he live to be 100 years old? I need to start smoking and drinking more. Cheech and Chong are very healthy. Yeah, absolutely. Canada Dry is best in a glass of scotch. So I was looking, so because I figured out I like scotch, because one of my viewers in Scotland sent me some, I like Glenfiddich. Who knew? I've been trying all these bourbons. I don't like these bourbons. And I saw Elon Musk was in a interview with Joe Rogan, and they broke out a bottle of Old Camp, and I don't know which bottle it was, if it was the regular or if it was the peach pecan. But I've learned I really don't like whiskey. But if it's good enough for Elon, I thought I'd try it. And then I thought, if I like Glenfiddich, what else would I like in that same genre? I've never heard of this before. It's called Glenfodry. I think I'm saying it right. Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey. I'll tell you what I have learned. I don't like peat. If any Scotch is made with peat, it's disgusting. I hate it. So I didn't see anything about peat. I don't know if you guys tried this, if it's any good. It's from Scotland. It's real Scotch. Not that I have a problem with Glenfiddich. I really do like Glenfiddich, but I'm just looking to see what else I might like. I was surprised that I liked Glenfiddich, so I might be surprised if I like this too. Just trying to expand my horizons, and one of these days I'll open it and try it. All right. So our numbers on the final numbers here are 3,058 on the RAID, 1638 here. And in fact, grab the right mouse. Let's just hook this up to your monitor. How about we do that? Man, I'll tell you what, this video capture card that was provided to me from Colin Hilton is the single best thing ever sent to me from any viewer. Not to discourage anybody else, but talk about a gift that keeps on giving. This thing's just awesome. So I can do stuff like this. Let's go ahead and switch over to a different video input here. There it is. So there's our final numbers. I'm going to go ahead and do a restart so you guys can see how long this actually takes to boot up. So let's just go here and do a Restart. And remember, this is not optimized because we're still running all the MSI drivers instead of Gigabyte drivers. Scotch is an acquired taste. No, I liked it, right? I didn't acquire a taste for Scotch. I liked it immediately, first try. Bourbon, on the other hand, not so much. Here we go. What's our boot time? Anybody count that? Colin says, I never heard of that whiskey. Highland Park 12-year-old is good. I think I saw Highland Park there as well. I'll have to try to remember that. What capture card do you have? I have a PCI Express 4-port HDMI Magewell. It's a $900 capture card. It's the best thing I ever bought. What SSD is that? It's in the, if you look at the video description below the video, it's all described there. All the parts are described. Now we know it's not going to do Heaven Benchmark very well, but we'll do it anyway. We're just running onboard graphics to prove to you that onboard graphics are much better than they used to be. AMD's onboard graphics and the Ryzen chips are better than Intel's onboard graphics. But there are some games that are going to run just fine. Depends. I mean, this isn't going to run just fine, but actually it's not doing bad. I mean, it's not terrible. So the system is available for sale. Ideally, you'd be in the state of Arizona, but it can be customized. We can change it if you don't want that SSD, if you don't want that RAM, if you want to add a graphics card, if you want to change it, we can modify it and make it yours. Or you could take it as is. If you want information on that, you'll have to reach out to me using the email address Carey, C-A-R-E-Y, at tech, T-E-C-H, -vets, VETS.com. If you have any questions with regards to the hardware used in today's build, please click on the video notes below the video, and all the parts are listed there with links. If you're playing older games, if you're playing, things like, I don't know, World of Warcraft, trying to think of some older games. They play just fine using built-in graphics. But if you want to play the latest AAA titles, this is not going to cut it. But the fact that it does it at all, I don't think you really appreciate how far we've come with the technology. Because there was a time when built-in graphics couldn't even do 1/100th of the frame rate you're seeing. So it's an incredible evolution in onboard graphics. It's not fair to compare a 1080 Ti to what's built into a CPU. So you have to adjust your expectations according to what you're paying. And given that the CPU comes with this at no additional cost, is less to install, it's one less thing to worry about breaking. And you can always add a more advanced, more expensive graphics card in the future. You can't play WoW on this? Oh, you most certainly can. You most certainly can. And do you know how I know that? I got a buddy of mine who plays World of Warcraft on a Nook, and it runs just fine. And EverQuest, plays a lot of EverQuest, or used to. What do you like for monitors? Whatever looks good to your eyes, that's it. Make sure it's got a good warranty, and make sure that, you know, that it looks good to you. Nobody can tell you what you're seeing. Only you know what you're seeing. That's it. Remember, this is not a gaming machine. The fact that it can do this as well as it's doing it is bonus. That's just icing on the cake. It gives you some idea of the amount of performance built into that chip. There it is. There's our final score. It's pathetic. But again, the fact that it runs it all is very impressive, especially if you've been in the business as long as I have and you've seen where these benchmarks simply don't run at all on some older systems where the limited graphics capabilities were, well, limited far beyond this. So I'm very impressed. To think that you can do that without adding a discrete graphics card, the fact that that even runs at all, that's impressive. Again, it's not a gaming machine. It wasn't designed to do that. So the fact that it does it is impressive. All right, let's take a look here. System's dead quiet. It's very quiet. I hear neither the power supply nor the CPU fan. Those are the only two fans in the whole system. I do have some concern about the potential for heat-related problems. If you were to, you know, throw a mechanical drive in there, you're adding heat. And if you throw a graphics card in there, you're certainly going to add heat. Let's see. Guess I can erase this flash drive. We can use that another day for another BIOS flash in the future. All right. Carrie, do you prefer GIGABYTE over ASUS boards? Yes, that is my preference. I prefer GIGABYTE over ASUS. I think if you just look at the builds I do, the parts you see me use most often are the parts I prefer. It's not real difficult to put that together. But I have to support everything I sell. It's not like most of you guys who are just building for yourselves for fun. I have to be held accountable and responsible for it forever. And customers are often companies that are trying to run a business, and if their computer goes down, their business goes down. So I'm very cautious over the parts I pick. And that's why I'm not real hip on the RGB lighting craze, because I've never met a corporation that has ever called me and said, we'd like you to install RGB lighting in our computers for us. That's all hobbyist nonsense. And, you know, most hobbies are nonsense. If you get enjoyment from it, then it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. So asking about what somebody else thinks on something that you've already made your mind up on is kind of a waste of time for everybody. Let's see, let's get rid of this. All right. I think that's going to wrap up our build. There she is in all of her glory. I can see that there's a little LED light lit up right up in that corner there on the motherboard. Other than that, you can barely see in here. I know they sell some fans, RGB fans that could go on the front. I thought this came with them, but I guess not. They're not traditional RGB fans in that all they do is they light up in it's like a circle. It doesn't move. It's just an LED circle around the base of the fan, the edges of the fan, the frame of the fan, which is a neat look. I really wish I had more nice things to say about it. It was very nice of Silverstone, and I want to thank Tony over at Silverstone for sending the case to me. And I want to apologize to Tony that I have so many critical things to say about it. I hope that doesn't discourage him from sending me future Silverstone products. I can't get on board with this case. I think if they address the issues that I talked about, which would require a major redesign, I think I would like it. But at this point, I can't recommend it. An LED ring fan. Yeah, thank you, Lance. That's what it is. Where is the air input? The air input on the case is right up here on the top. There's a big filter here. And also on the bottom, there's air inputs, which is pretty common if you're bringing the fans on the front to draw air in. They typically bring it in off the edges on most cases. Kerry, Highland Park whiskey is pronounced as Healand Park. So a Highland cow would be a Healand coo. Wow. Kerry, how do you remove the MSI driver? I'm not going to. I'm just going to reinstall Windows. Just throw Windows on it. Do a clean install. Kerry, will you keep us apprised of Silverstone's response? Sure. I imagine they're just going to say that they appreciate that I took the time out to review the case, and they appreciate the feedback. That's ideally what I'll hear back. And if they never send me anything ever again, I'll know why. Is this a finished case or a pre-production? This is a finished case. It's available for sale, I believe. I will say, despite the design elements of the case, Silverstone has a reputation for building quality cases, and this does not fall short. This is a very well-engineered materials that are being used here. Well-engineered, they fit together well, they're finished off really nice. They're not cheap materials. Personally, I could do also without this chrome trim. That's going to show fingerprints and dust really bad. I think if you wanted to make the case black, you should have made it all black, and preferably matte black, not a glossy black, for the same reason of fingerprints and whatnot. But that's aesthetics. So I'm not too worried about that as much as I am about the lack of a hard drive LED and the other things I mentioned. Patrick says, the package I sent should come in today via UPS. Well, I will be on the lookout. We have 666 people watching. Is this a bad sign? If you guys have any questions, this will be the time to ask, or we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's video. Yeah, this is it. The Silverstone Lucid LD01, $120 on Newegg. Thank you for that. I don't know how to say your name. RadXR3. CCTV user says this whole thing is a fingerprint magnet. Yeah, well, why would you have your fingers on it? Your fingers should be on the keyboard. Does it have a door on it? Nope. Do you have any future builds in the works? About half a dozen, yeah. Carrie, did you get my email about the cooler from yesterday? No, I didn't. What graphics card should I use for photo and video? Whatever is recommended by the software you are using for photo and video. Winston Anglus contributed $2 He says, a box is coming to you from Vancouver, Canada. Thank you, Winston. I'll let you know when I receive that. Have I tried the 2242 M.2 USB adapter? Silverstone's going to mail me one of those for review when they get in stock. They're out of stock at this time. Last I spoke to Tony over at Silverstone, but I'm on the list. CCTV user says, thanks for all the quality streams lately. Thank you guys for tuning in and for watching. Where is the DVD ROM drive? You'll have to add a USB one, external USB DVD if you wanted one. There's no bays on this. Colin says, I'm sending you a private message on Facebook Messenger. Okay, well, I'll check that when I'm done, Colin. Would I recommend a B360 or Z370 motherboard for an i7-8700? Whatever fits your needs. Z370 is really for overclocking. So if it's not an 8700K, unless there's some other number of SATA ports or PCI Express lanes, that I don't think there is. There might be on the Z. I think you also get more USB ports on the Z. So just check out the specs and see what fits your needs. For some people, answering that question could go either way. Depends on the person. Steven Cicero says, I'm interested in that all-in-one liquid cooler you used in the build yesterday. I got plenty of them to sell, so you can just reach out to me at my email address. I know you've got that, Steven. Talk about that in private email. Are M.2 heat sinks necessary? No. They're not necessary. If they were necessary, it would come with them. But they're there to prevent the potential of overheating. When an M.2 drive gets hot, it slows down. The heat sinks are very inexpensive for M.2 drives. And they don't really make a huge cooling difference, maybe 10 degrees Celsius, but often that's enough. Also, it has a pretty neat look to the M.2 drive, which is otherwise kind of blah to look at. And then of course, there are motherboards now that come with the heat sinks as part of the motherboard for the M.2 slots. And if you got them, use them. There's no harm in using one, but it's not necessary, no, not for most builds. Is overclocking a CPU a good thing for the CPU? No, it's one of the most harmful things you can do to it. But what's that got to do with people having fun? Carrie, what is the best computer for a person on disability? Whether or not you're on disability is irrelevant. It's about what your needs are, what you need the computer to do, and how you're going to use it. And then you have to figure out, at that point, what you need to do to acquire one, whether that means saving money or buying something used. It really depends on what your needs are. It has nothing to do with the money. Carrie, I've got a 750 Ti. Do you think I would see a benefit to upgrading to a 1050 Ti? I wouldn't. All right, any final questions, or we're going to wrap it up today, folks? Give you guys just a couple minutes here to see if there's any other technical questions I can answer for you. All right, well, I don't see any other questions coming in, so I guess we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And just looking through here. You guys, if you're talking to me about business, I don't talk about that publicly. You'll have to contact me privately. Heavy Sonic Jeffrey, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. Christoph Esch, thank you for your contribution earlier, and of course your participation, always appreciated. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go, and thanks to all my moderators for making sure that everything stays civil in our chat room, and for everybody who's participating and showing support to other members of the chat. I really appreciate that as well. That's its own reward, honestly. And for everybody who's contributed during the live stream, it's your contributions that help me to be able to make more videos more often. And all the money that's collected goes right back into the channel. And of course, another shout out to Peter Laycock for his continued contribution. This video essentially was brought to you solely by Peter Laycock. His contribution was generous. And of course, my thanks to Silverstone for sending the product for me to test and evaluate today. I'll have to find another project for the power supply, that mini ITX power supply, or small form factor power supply. Really looks nice. Fanless power supply, no noise, 80 plus platinum power efficiency rating. Yeah, it seems like a really nice power supply. So we'll have to put together a rig where we can use that. That'll be fun. And then if anybody's interested in buying any of the systems that you see me build, you can reach out to me. The email address is available by clicking About here on YouTube. When you go to click on my name and you can click on About. Or you can contact me through TechVets using the donate button. Any donation will get you through to my email address, and that way we'll be able to talk. And that's how I separate people that are wasting my time from the people who are serious, because I can't tell any other way. So anybody who's putting money up front, any amount of money, puts them well ahead of the pack as far as other people who just want to, I don't know, they just have nothing to do. They're lonely and they want to chat. I'd love to chat if I had time, but I'm just trying my best to help as many people that are serious about needing the help. And it's the only way I know how to differentiate the serious people from the people just biding time. So I hope you understand that reasoning. And do they do a bracket for the power supply? I'm sure there's an adapter you can buy for the small form factor power supply to make it fit into a regular size case. There usually is. I know that the N-Case M1, the adapter came with the case, not necessarily from the power supply manufacturer, but it should be possible to buy one. I'd rather not. If I've got a case that's big enough to hold a standard size power supply, I'd rather use a standard size power supply. They're more powerful. The small form factor power supplies, you don't see those in 1500 watts. So anyway, I'll use it in a mini ITX build. Red Dragon has contributed $2. Thank you, Red Dragon, for your contribution. And I am going to let everybody go. That's going to wrap it up for me today. I will be live again tomorrow. What am I doing tomorrow? I think I have a build I'm doing tomorrow. And I also have to order parts for the build going to Australia. I think I'm going to do that now. I need to go sit down and order a bunch of parts, like $3,000 worth of parts. And then hopefully I can get that done next week or the week after. And then Mitch and I will be filming Thursday and Friday. There won't be any live video Thursday or Friday because we'll be here filming to finish up the interactive build. And yeah, I had to, yesterday after I was done with the video, I had to fix 5 computers remotely yesterday. The good news is most of them were pretty quick. It was like one of them just needed the internet cache cleared. The websites weren't. coming up correctly. And by the way, if you ever have a problem with a website not loading, always clear your cache. That's the first thing you do. And obviously restart the computer. Have you tried turning it off and on again? That's all I'm saying. That's your words of wisdom for today. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Kerry Holzman, and I will see you all again very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.